Hello, this is Benjamin Fulford speaking on May 29th, 2026. Right now, the worldview seen on the English internet is so far detached from reality that I think it's time to step back a bit and look at the people who are really in control. So let us start with Donald J. Trump. We are now on the fifth version of Donald J. Trump. The original Donald J. Trump was financed by the Harrimans and the British Rothschilds, and he died in a helicopter crash in 1989. They then replaced him with another avatar who was the Make America Great Again guy, and he lasted until June of 2025. At this point, a different group of families who owned the Federal Reserve Board, the Rockefellers, took over the Trump avatar and immediately used it to destroy the Trump image that had been created over the decades. It was deliberate acting to make him look like a megalomaniac, insane person. And who are the people behind this? This is the Rockefellers, okay? And people need to understand this. Bill Clinton was the son of Winthrop Rockefeller. Hillary Clinton was the daughter of David Rockefeller. Other Rockefellers include, for example, John Podesta. He's Lawrence Rockefeller in that branch of the family. Those are the people pushing the space opera, the alien disclosure, all that kind of stuff. And then we have other Rockefellers. For example, take a look at these pictures of Michael Rockefeller, who supposedly was eaten by cannibals in Papua New Guinea, who looks identical to Tom Hanks. They are one and the same people, according to my various sources, which include descendants of J.P. Morgan and other of the founders of the Federal Reserve Board, as well as European royals. And then, of course, there's Mark Zuckerberg. He's another Rockefeller. And they're also Obama, descended from Hitler. So we're talking about bloodlines. So then hire actors to play their roles and make it seem like, we have a democracy, when in fact it's all fake. And, we've tried to reach out to these people. We offer them 200 tons of gold to help finance. We'd start by setting up a think tank with that money to figure out how to set up a better system of economic management for the West so we don't get overrun by China. And the idea was to hire some really smart people to figure out how to set up a future planning agency. And then, once the agency was set up, then trillions of dollars would be made available to, end poverty, stop environmental destruction, turn this world into a paradise, all that kind of stuff. But they're blocking us. And since they will not accept the gold, the Dragon family has made a decision that we're going to offer gold bounties on these people. But before we get into that, listen to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. here in this clip talking about the Pfizer vaccine.
There's 25% of Americans who believe that they know somebody who was killed by a COVID vaccine.
Killed?
Killed. 25% of Americans, 52% of Americans believe that the vaccines are causing injuries, including death. 52%. If you look at the clinical trial studies, the actual studies that were done, that were released of the Pfizer vaccine, Moderna has not released it. If you look at the Pfizer vaccine, there were 22,000 people in the placebo group, 22,000 people who got the actual vaccine. And the people who got the vaccine had a 23% higher death rate from all causes at the end of that study.
But that could not be the disease itself?
No, well,
because we know that
if it is, then the vaccine doesn't work, does it?
Well, it's certainly. Well, no, that's not.
Okay, this is very important because here we have scientific proof of mass murder. And Pfizer, along with the other companies, are ultimately owned by the Rockefellers. So before you get upset about the fact we're putting bounties on these people, remember, they are some of the worst mass murderers in human history. The vaccines alone are now have killed at least 20 million people. And they have control over most of the internet, most of the corporate media you're seeing. And that's why we have all these lies. We have a fake Trump making Trump look like an insane wacko. And then we have them trying to start World War III to avoid going to jail. This is why we really, really do need to take these people down. And so we're going to put out a bounty on all members of the Rockefeller family of 1 ton of gold each. And all members of the current Trump cabinet. Howard Lutnick, Kevin Warsh, all of them. Because they are working for mass murdering criminals. And they are preventing, war crimes tribunals against the murderers of children and stuff. The other thing that's going to happen is in the United States, the UK, in the United Kingdom, there is a civil war raging behind the scenes. It was a huge attempt to remove Keir Starmer, who is a Rockefeller stooge, and the fake King Charles are using, and that fight is going to continue. So we're putting out a bounty on the fake King Charles and Keir Starmer because they have to be removed. They're Rockefeller agents. They do not work for the British people. And, these people have been doing horrible things for a long time. In Canada, they set up this whole fake, genocide of First Nations PSYOPs campaign to try to destroy Canada's image. It was financed by the Rockefeller brothers, who are also trying to prevent Canada from exporting oil to Asia by hiring fake First Nations activists. And I'm telling you right now, they're all going to be arrested as working for the Rockefellers. We're going to wipe out their network in Canada. It's already happening. Canada is free from these people now, and they're going to help the American people restore democracy. Okay? What we're saying is we don't want these hidden oligarchs using actors pretending and screenwriters to control what the American people do in the future. We want the American people to actually elect their own leaders and not just, be foisted upon with hired hands who do what they're told by their secret handlers. This is not going to be allowed to happen. I know now there's also an attempt to make it look like it's the Italian black nobility who are really behind the scenes, people like the Orsinis and stuff. And I went to Italy, I met these people, and they're not the problem, okay? These people do have a long-term project to create a world republic. They want, a world republic government such as you see in the SF series like Star Trek. But they don't want to kill 90% of humanity, enslave the rest, and set up a satanic rule headquartered in Greater Assyria, mistakenly called Israel. So these people are not the problem. The problem has been identified as the Rockefeller Hitler bloodline, and we need to go after them because they're obviously not going to step quietly into the night. And it's been scientifically proven they are mass murderers. And I'm amazed that the U.S. military and the police have not come in and arrested these people yet, because they really do need to be arrested. In any case, there is an international boycott of the Rockefeller interests, and that is why the American people are suffering, because the Rockefellers are trying to squeeze money out of them in order to survive. They're also trying to do that in Japan by bankrupting farmers while forcing consumers to pay double what they pay for rice despite abundant harvests. This is all an attempt to squeeze money out of the people in the countries they control in order to avoid bankruptcy. And we're going to go after them until they're finally removed from control of the Federal Reserve Board and the financial system. Of course, the bounty is also on Scott Bessent. And if you wish to collect the gold, you can go to either Taiwan, Hong Kong, or I believe the Iranian people, if you go there, they would be happy to provide gold if these people are removed and help destroy the satanic state of Israel and replace it with the God-fearing state of Judea. So we're going to keep fighting there, but I'm just so sick and tired of the entire fake story that's being put out as news in the English internet. It's just so unconnected to reality. So now they've cut out they pulled out a fake Steven Spielberg, who's long dead, and now they're trying to push the space opera again, and they're also still pushing fake diseases like hantavirus while ignoring real ones like malaria, all in an attempt to stay in power. We really need to keep pushing because the entire planet is sick and tired of these inbred criminals who worship Satan. And of course, the other thing is everybody knows that they murdered and tortured children and then blackmailed people with videos of them murdering and torturing children. This has to end. And there's a lot of grassroots work, and people in the law enforcement agencies, front lines, have been arresting pedophiles all over the world. There's been huge arrests in France, in Los Angeles, in Poland, and this will continue, but we need to go after the top people. We need to go after the secret controllers to end this, but we're going to keep fighting because it's not going to be allowed to continue. In any case, the international boycott of the Rockefellers is continuing. They will not last longer. We're also hearing from U.S. military intelligence that the Israelis tried to start a massive air attack against Iran and were stopped by the Russians and the Chinese and the Iranians. They've lost the military ability to do any damage there, and they cannot blockade the Straits of Hormuz. So hopefully this will not last much longer, but we need to keep pushing. And remember, these are some of the worst mass murders in history, and they are vicious killers of politicians, of industrialists, anybody else. So that's why a lot of us stay anonymous. I don't, but many do. But we need to go after them until this is over. It's very important. And if we push now, we can end this. Okay, there was a couple things I forgot to add. First of all, if you look at this clip of a press conference with the fake Donald Trump, here you have a so-called mainstream reporter, a corporate reporter, asking about a 9,000-year-old cult of cannibals.
So at the crux of the theory is this belief that you are secretly saving the world from this satanic cult of pedophiles and cannibals. Does that sound like something you are behind? Or
well, I haven't heard that, but is that supposed to be a bad thing or a good thing? I mean, you know, if I can help save the world from problems, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to put myself out there.
And that's a sign that we're reaching the point where the fake story that they're trying to present in the news is falling apart, and people are realizing that we really, you know, Western civilization, especially American civilization, really has been taken over by an ancient Canaanite cult that sacrifices children. So they are, you know, they're losing the ability to suppress the story. At this point, a majority of people in the West realize this. We just need to have the military take action. Another thing that's coming out is people are now realizing that chemtrails are real, and that this is something that also has to be stopped. Take a look at this clip from a whistleblower who was actually involved in creating the chemtrails to understand the sort of things these people have been doing.
I was in the U.S. Air Force for 9 years. What many people know is the term chemtrails. I worked in a job called bioenvironmental engineering, and I thought that was insane. And why would we do something like that? Modify the weather by using hazardous materials in our atmosphere? And actually the process of trying to debunk it or disprove it, I realized it was actually coming right out of my office, as I was one of the people that was approving the chemicals. And I did a lot of sampling, a lot of investigation, and I blew the whistle and I got out. And I've now used my credentials to help people understand it's very real. There are multiple forms of weather modification. I specifically found the one of stratospheric aerosol injection. Collectively around the globe, we have to understand that it is now being admitted because they're saying it's combating climate change. Well, the climate change we need to be worried about is man-made climate engineering, also known as geoengineering. People really need to wake up to it, irrespective of any political party. It's not okay. If you are modifying the weather, you are messing with Mother Nature. And meteorology is a very, very thorough study. It does not make sense when you are altering nature where things are not naturally supposed to occur. We had massive flooding in California, and we have a system called HARP, and the same people who demonized me 5-10 years ago are now going, wow, because they're finding it's openly admitted in all of our U.S. documents. The U.S. is absolutely not the only country doing it.
So, again, you know, it's not just the spreading, trying to kill us with vaccines. They're also trying to kill us by dropping poisons from airplanes. So this really is a fight for our very lives. And that's why we must take action. And if you're in the military and the agencies, please do what you can. Go up the chain of command, identify people who are causing problems, remove them. Let's make this happen. Okay, that's what I have to say for myself today. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Hi, Ben. We have our first question for today. It says, could it be possible that the data centers are just large-scale terraforming machines in disguise? They seem to excel at using large amounts of power to deplete entire regions of water, which would turn the Earth into a desert if deployed the way that they are planning. What are your thoughts on this?
There are a lot of people who say that the aim of the data centers is to replace humans with AI and AI-controlled robots. So this would be the ruling elites who still control the Fortune 500 companies, trying to stay in power by replacing humans with robots, which they hope to stay in control of. That's quite a real possibility, but for sure there's no legitimate business model to explain the trillions of dollars being invested in these data centers. All they do now is they basically plagiarize from real historians and real journalists, and they don't provide a lot of original thinking. They don't provide any original thinking. It's all plagiarism or stuff they're told to regurgitate. So it's wrong, and we need to stop it. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Could you please comment on the corruption in the SAPs in South Africa and what you expect is likely to happen?
You know what? All I know is that South Africa set up a fake Mandela to keep the old regime in power, and I'll have to look more into the situation to make a more meaningful comment about what's happening there now. I'll try to do that for my Monday report. I haven't been following very closely, but I do know that Winnie Mandela did say that her husband would be replaced by a fake, and that the whole situation there is not what it's supposed to be. And I hope that the people of South Africa, including the ones with European ancestry, work together to make that country, economically strong and fair for all peoples. And they should not try to promote race wars of any sort. Next question.
Hi, Ben. One thing that nobody seemed to notice, when Donald Trump was sworn in as president, he did not place his hand on the Bible. Check out the videos and you will see that it is correct. Does this mean that he is not really our president because he was not properly sworn in?
What I was told at the time was that the reason the Donald Trump in the video did not put his hand on the Bible was because he was an actor, and that the real Trump did put his hand on the Bible at a separate ceremony, which for security reasons was held away from the public. However, that Trump has been replaced by a fake satanic puppet now. So the person who is now pretending to be Donald Trump is definitely not a Christian or a believer in God. He's a Satanist, a puppet, and the Christian people, including the Catholic Church, are in the forefront of trying to remove this satanic filth that took over the government in the United States, and I wish them the best. Next question.
Hi, Ben. With everything going on in the current world, there doesn't seem to be much certainty of anything. What would you suggest that people do to prepare in the events that the White Hats do lose this war?
The most important thing is to remember that whatever is closest to you is most important. So what you need to worry about is making sure that you have access to a food supply no matter what. And that includes, going out to the countryside, making friends with farmers and going to farmers markets. And worry about things like your friends, your pets, your own personal work, and try to ignore the hysteria on our screens, because what's happening is the controllers of the sort of great public story have lost the plot. And so my advice is if you think the White Hats are losing, is to turn off your screens and focus on the real world, because they'll never get control of the real world. All they can do is take control of the fake world on our screens. Next question.
Evan, we have our last question for today. It seems like this tick disease that has been causing an intolerance to red meat, seems like the publicity about it has started to die down. Do you think that this threat has been eliminated, or do you think that this will still end up being a problem where they are attempting to force everybody into eating bugs?
Clearly, the publicity of them dropping ticks in order to spread Lyme disease so they can market a Lyme disease vaccine has caused them to dial back on the campaign. But you can be sure they're going to try something else. And, you know, until they're removed from control of the major corporations, especially the pharmaceutical and other corporations, they'll keep trying to kill us. So the important thing is we need to remove their control of the corporations. Take the Fortune 500 away from the Rockefellers, etc. That's what we have to do, and that's what I'm hoping the military police will finally get off their asses and do, because they're legally obliged to do so. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself this week, and I hope to see you again next week.